Hey, I'm standing here in Muir Woods National Monument next to a redwood tree that fell back in the early 80s. And I wanted to shoot the video from here so you could see the image of these roots. Now, redwood trees, which can grow up almost as tall as 300 feet, have a root system that only goes down about 10 to 12 feet, pretty shallow for a tree of this size. But even though the roots don't go down very deep, they will spread as far as 100 feet. Now, one of the park rangers was telling us that this tree that's fallen here back in the early 80s probably was dead for 50 to 60 years before it actually fell. And the reason why it was able to stand for so long after it died is because the root system of the other trees that were still living were so interconnected with this tree that quite literally after it died it had been held up by the roots and the strength of the community of trees. Now, this idea of this connected root system reminds me of Paul's letter to the church in Colossae, in which he writes in chapter 2, "So then, just as you have received Christ Jesus as Lord, continue to live in him, rooted and built up in him, strengthened in the faith that you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness." I think this is such a wonderful and beautiful metaphor for us growing in our faith in the context of Christian community. One of the other interesting facts about these redwood trees is that new growth will typically sprout up off of burrs from the root system, and so you'll never see a redwood tree growing by itself. It isn't possible. I think the same is true in our faith. You won't see an active follower of Jesus Christ doing very well without being in the context of community. And so my hope and prayer for us as we see this image and we consider our own faith journeys, that we be intentional about growing in our faith within the context of community, knowing that we might hold one another up in the faith that we share.